So we're going to look at pruning grapevines, vinifera, wine grape varieties. And this is a 3-year-old plant here. We're going to start and look at a young plant, and we're going to move up into some older plants. You can see that there is an older cane that has been pulled along the wire here, and it's very common on young vines that the first year you have a crop you only have a cane coming out one direction. That is absolutely okay to do. You can see the upright growth off it. You can see bunches here that had set. The bunches set on the new wood that pushes every year. So when that's the case, you have to cut all the way, you cut all the other wood out. So in this case, we're cutting out the one cordon that we left last year, and we're going to take it completely off. And then you can see here there was a little cane from that grew last year or the year before last that we stubbed, and we're going to call that a spur. And off that spur you have two new canes that we can pull down for this year. You need last year's wood growing off of a spur or a cane from the year before, so it's new 2-year-old wood growing off of 3-year-old wood. The farther you get away from that combination, the slower or the less fruitful that vine will be. And so in this case we have two nice moderately vigorous canes right here. We're going to pull these two down. You always want to pay attention and make sure the origin of these canes you're tying to the wire start 3 to 6 inches below the wire, because it will creep up and pretty soon you're having to be pulling branches down to the wire. Not very desirable. So what we do is we leave one bud spur, one cane in each direction. Don't use real vigorous fat canes. We call them bull canes. They are not going to be as fruitful. Then these canes that we keep, we come in and wrap them once around the wire, put just a twist tie on it like that so they're easy to take off next year. And you can see 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 buds on this cane. Same going this way here. It's going to go out about as far. And this cane here we're going to tie down. Sometimes when you have the post in the way, you just have to get out of, just go around it. Maybe don't wrap it as much, but the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buds on that side. That cane wasn't quite as vigorous, and sometimes they don't grow all the way through. Not a problem. We tend to, in Western Washington, pull these canes so they're head to head. So the cane off this would come over and abut up to this one, not overlap them. And that's pretty much a plant where you want to be at the end of every growing season. So let's look at how these are pruned as these trunks mature. You can see a new spur left here last year gave us 2 very viable canes on this to recenter the head on this. And you can see this starts to get fairly complicated. This is the cane that was laid down last year for the shoots to come up on and produce fruit. And on this side, it's way out to this point. So this is very instructive, where you see 1-year wood from last year attached to 2-year-old wood. You see this cut? This little spur here was from the year before. That's 3-year wood. This little spur here is 4-year-old wood and 5-year-old wood. And so what you continually do, you start to work your way out just by nature of one bud at a time. And so what we would do is we're going to come in and we're going to cut this cane out here, and we are going to cut this cane out here, and all that goes away. And these 2 shoots right here is what we will use as our new plant. And so if we come in here, take that out like that. Stop. So you can see I've thinned a few of these out, and what we have now are some 1-year canes in here to choose from if we wanted to. This is where I'm ultimately going to cut. We're going to take these 2 big arms off. This cane here would be fine to use. It's growing out of a spur on that side. Either of these 2 canes on this side growing out of last year's wood is fine. But in this case, the arms are starting to move out away from the center, and so we will come in and take these out just like that. So you can see here we've got this all cut down to 1 cane in each direction. In Puget Sound we plant 5 feet apart, and so these vines will go, we will come in and wrap them around the load wire like this, and they will be tied down halfway between this plant and the next one. I just use these paper twist ties, 2 twists on the wire. At the end of the year when you go to cut this off, they pull apart very easily. And then on this side, same thing. And then we trim the bud back, the cane back, so they're equal there. We're pruning late here. It's early April. It's been quite cold. It's very common in Western Washington to see sap bleed out of any wound pretty much all winter long. That's not going to hurt anything. The other thing I want to show you is when you're pruning in the winter, it is very handy, seeing this is such a mildew prone area, is that when you prune to a bud, always cut with the tall part towards the bud, so the sap, when it bleeds off, it bleeds away from the bud and doesn't encase the bud and harden, so the bud doesn't push. That sap has a lot of sugar in it, so that will also really benefit any other fungus diseases that are lurking around your canes, which are probably plenty in Western Washington.